In 1993, 3 engineers sat in a booth at a Denny's diner in San Jose, California, with a $40,000 investment and an idea that most people in Silicon Valley thought was a waste of time. 30 years later, the company they founded in that diner booth became the first business in human history to reach a market value of $5 trillion. More valuable than Apple, more valuable than Microsoft, more valuable at its peak than the entire GDP of Japan. This is the story of Jensen Huang and how NVIDIA quietly became the engine powering the entire AI revolution before anyone realized it was happening. Jensen Huang was born in Taipei, Taiwan in 1963. His family moved frequently, first to Thailand, then to the United States when Jensen was 9 years old. His parents, wanting to give him a strong education, enrolled him at a boarding school in Kentucky, Oneida Baptist Institute. Jensen later described it as unexpectedly tough. He shared a room with a student named Dally, who had a habit of carrying a knife. But Jensen didn't crumble. He adapted. He became a competitive table tennis player, a straight-A student, and eventually made his way to Oregon State University, then Stanford, where he earned a master's degree in electrical engineering. He went to work at AMD, then at LSI Logic, learning the chip industry from the inside. By 1993, at just 30 years old, Jensen felt ready. He called 2 engineers he trusted, Chris Malachowski and Curtis Priam. The 3 of them met at a Denny's in San Jose. With $40,000 between them and a simple belief that graphics processing was about to become essential computing infrastructure, they founded NVIDIA on January 25, 1993. The name comes from the Latin word invidia, meaning envy. They wanted competitors to be envious of what they built. In the early years, almost no one was. NVIDIA's first product was a graphics chip called the NV1. It was a commercial failure. The technology worked, but the market wasn't ready for it, and a key partnership with Sega collapsed, nearly taking the company with it. By 1996, NVIDIA was running out of money. Jensen made the decision to lay off half the staff. He went home and threw up. Then he came back the next morning and kept building. The team that remained worked in a sprint. Jensen later described it as operating under a permanent sense of existential threat. That urgency never fully left NVIDIA's culture. In 1997, they launched the Riva 128, a chip that was faster than anything else on the market. It sold 1 million units in 4 months. NVIDIA had survived. 2 years later, in 1999, they launched the GeForce 256 and coined a term that would change the industry forever: the graphics processing unit, the GPU. NVIDIA went public on the NASDAQ that same year at $12 a share. The gaming industry would never be the same, and neither would artificial intelligence, though nobody knew it yet. Through the 2000s, NVIDIA dominated PC gaming, but Jensen was already thinking further ahead. In 2006, NVIDIA launched CUDA, a software platform that allowed their graphics chips to be used for general computing tasks, not just rendering game visuals. It was a strange, quiet announcement. The gaming community largely ignored it. Scientists and researchers didn't. Academics began realizing that NVIDIA's GPUs could run certain calculations, specifically the kind needed for machine learning, hundreds of times faster than traditional CPUs. The hardware had existed for years. CUDA just unlocked it. Through the 2000s and 10s, as artificial intelligence research began accelerating, one company's chips kept showing up in the world's most powerful AI labs, NVIDIA's. In 2012, a landmark AI research paper called AlexNet, which used NVIDIA GPUs to train an image recognition model, shocked the research community with its performance. It is widely credited as the moment that launched the modern AI era. Jensen saw what was coming before almost anyone in the boardroom world did. He began shifting NVIDIA's focus toward data centers, AI infrastructure, and what he called accelerated computing. In 2017, Fortune magazine wrote a profile with this opening line: "If you haven't heard of NVIDIA, you can be forgiven." By 2023, that sentence was unthinkable. In November 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT. Within 2 months, it had 100 million users, the fastest product adoption in history. Every major tech company, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, immediately began a race to build their own AI systems. And to build those systems, they needed one thing above all else: NVIDIA chips. NVIDIA controls an estimated 90% of the market for AI training chips. Its H100 GPU, priced at $30,000 to $40,000 per unit, had waiting lists stretching months. Companies were reportedly paying double and triple the retail price just to get access faster. The financial results were staggering. NVIDIA crossed $1 trillion in market cap in June 2023, $2 trillion in February 2024, $3 trillion in June 2024, briefly surpassing Apple and Microsoft to become the most valuable company on Earth. In October 2025, NVIDIA did something no company had ever done. It crossed $5 trillion. The same month, Jensen Huang revealed NVIDIA had secured over $500 billion in chip orders through the end of 2026. Jensen Huang, the kid who once shared a room with a knife-carrying roommate at a Kentucky boarding school, was now worth $158 billion. So what can we learn from Jensen Huang and NVIDIA? Lesson 1. Bet on platforms, not products. Jensen didn't just sell gaming chips. He built CUDA, a software ecosystem that locked developers and researchers into NVIDIA's hardware for decades. The chip was the product. The ecosystem was the empire. Lesson 2. Build for markets that don't exist yet. In 2006, almost nobody was using GPS for AI research. Jensen invested in that future anyway. He once said, "Our company was built on the belief that accelerated computing was going to be an important discipline." He was right by about 15 years. Lesson 3. Survive long enough to be right. NVIDIA nearly went bankrupt in the mid-1990s. Jensen laid off half his team, got sick from the stress, and came back the next day. Without that survival, there is no AI revolution. Lesson 4. Urgency is a permanent operating mode. Jensen has described NVIDIA as always operating as if it were 30 days from going out of business. That mentality, even after reaching $5 trillion, is what separates companies that coast on success from companies that compound it. NVIDIA is not done. Its next chip platform, Vera Rubin, is already being shipped, named after the astronomer who discovered evidence for dark matter. Jensen Huang seems to enjoy the metaphor, building things that are invisible until suddenly everyone can see them. From a $40,000 bet in a Denny's booth to the world's first $5 trillion company in 30 years. Subscribe, because next week we're telling the story of the Dutch company that makes the machines that make NVIDIA's chips, and without them, none of this is possible. Almost nobody outside the industry knows their name. Every empire has a supply chain, and sometimes the most powerful player is the one nobody's looking at.